Uh, I welcome Mr. Vijay Karunakaran, CEO TNQ InGage. Sir, have you joined there? Vijay sir?
Yes, I have just joined.
Yes, yes, sir. You take your own time to set up. Make the
Yeah,
setup.
just need a few minutes to get my sharing part taken care of. Yeah.
Sure, sure.
So the sharing starts.
Their open share tray is there, no? Sharing
Yeah,
option is
I
there.
did that. Open share tray.
Yeah, yeah. I will share the screen.
Yeah. Let me know if my screen is visible.
Okay, sir. Okay. Later.
Mr. Glenn,
Yes, sir.
are you able to see my screen that I'm sharing?
Just a minute, sir. I hope it's not visible, sir.
Okay, how do I do that? See, I opened up the open share tray, right? I did that,
Okay.
right? I click that. Once I,
Just a minute. It's not. Just a minute.
pretty familiar with Teams. I've done quite a bit of work, but here, once I hit the open share tray, I don't see any dialog which says what is it you want to share. That's not coming up.
It's coming actually. Whether the screen or window, it will come. Actually,
Yeah,
just
I
a minute.
know, but that's not coming. Should I log off and try logging again?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Try
Let me
that.
do that. All right, let me do that.
Okay. By the open share trial, போட்டாச்சுன்னா வரும் இல்ல?
Hello.
Sir?
Yeah, I joined again. I'm trying to share.
Open share tray. Just you click.
One share tray. That's what I clicked. Typically, you get a small window that says, "Do you want to share a screen or the entire desktop?"
Entire desktop, sir.
Yeah, I
You
know
go.
that. It's not coming
Yeah.
up. That menu is that particular thing is not coming up.
Just a minute.
I'm wondering why that would be.
Sir, it's coming down. It is coming actually. Here also
Yeah,
it is coming. Yeah.
yeah, coming down, but I don't see any thing at the bottom. Uh, are you able to see my screen? No, right?
Yes. You are visible. Now two screens are there.
Two screens. No, no.
Yes.
Is my deck visible? Am I sharing?
Yes.
Huh?
Sharing desk is not visible.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So my PPT is not visible, right?
Yes, sir. Your PPT is not visible.
Okay, I don't know why. Because typically when I hit the open shot tray, the upper arrow mark becomes pointing downwards, and then I get a option. So I click here, then suddenly I'm not getting anything.
Okay.
Not getting anything. Raise hand. What do I do? Close shot tree. Let me see if there's any other thing I need to do. 1 second. Let me try again, okay? Yeah.
So there one PowerPoint option is there now.
Yeah. Now it seems to be okay.
Yes. Okay.
Um, are you able to see the
Yes. Now.
screen now?
Yeah.
Yeah, screen is visible, right?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Now, what we need to figure out is how to get the audio, right? I have a video file. I
Okay.
want to play it now, see if you're getting the audio or not. Yeah?
Okay. Yes.
Right now, we're inside a computer program. Is it really so hard to believe?
Yes. It's the audio. Audio, sir.
Audio is good. All right. So we are all set now.
Yes, sir.
I am ready to present whenever you are.
Just a minute, sir. Okay. Mustafa, are you there? Mustafa?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Yeah. Please introduce our guest to our participants.
Okay, sir. Good afternoon to one and all. I think everyone would basically agree that we don't have the science or technology today built the AR glasses that we want. We may 5 years or 7 years or something like that, but we are not likely to able to deliver the experience that we want right now. I'm profoundly overjoyed to take the opportunity to introduce Mr. Vijay Karunakaran to enrich our knowledge on AR and VR in healthcare. He is present CEO of TNQ InGage Technologies, is a true global citizen having lived, worked, traveled around the world throughout his life. In the past 20 years of his professional experience, he formed and led teams across multiple countries including US, India, Israel, Singapore, Malaysia, China, and Costa Rica. These global experiences have greatly influenced him professionally and culturally. Before founding Engage, Vijay has held senior executive positions at various Fortune 500 companies like Intel and AMD in the US. During his 12 years at Intel as director, he led and nurtured various business and engineering functions that included smartphones and tablets business development, automobile processor design, and validation. He holds an MS in electrical engineering from the Tennessee Tech and an MBA in internship and marketing from the Duke University. On a lighter side, he also co-founded two restaurants in India while in college, managed it for 3 years and engineered in India while and engineered a successful exit by selling the restaurants before pursuing higher education in US. It is a great honor for me to welcome Sir Mr. Vijay Karunakaran to light our knowledge on AR and VR in medical sciences.
Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure to be among you and the team, and thank you for the college to give me the opportunity to present the insights and my knowledge on the use of immersive technologies in healthcare. Quick, in a nutshell, right? I've been in this business for quite a while. I've been designing microprocessors, mobile phones, wearables, AR, VR for the last 15 to 25 years. And our company, TNQ InGage, we are a Chennai-based company, headquartered in Chennai, India, but we do have offices in the US and UK. We build systems, systems inclusive of hardware and software, using immersive technologies. Immersive technologies are the XR technology that includes augmented reality, virtual reality, and MR. To make this technology more functional, we integrate with IoT and other software. And the industry that we serve includes defense. We build a lot of simulators for Indian defense, including warfare and other maneuvering simulators. We build simulators for law enforcement. In fact, you would be happy to know, currently we are doing a project with the Kerala Police, where we are building simulators to train the police officers in various crime scenes. How do they go about solving various investigative crime scenes, whether it is a homicide, bomb blast, mob riots, and various things. So we use technology for that kind of areas. And we also build training simulators and AR solutions for manufacturing, construction industry. And a good amount of time and effort is being spent to build product and services in healthcare, right? So that's all it is. And apart from this, we also build experience centers for large companies to showcase their products for external customers and internal customers. Yeah, that's me overall. And so before I get started on the overall presentation, I would like to start with a small video that sets the context, that sort of gets people excited, and most specifically post-lunch, whoever is sleeping or whoever is yawning, maybe they would like to see some video and get and wake up. Yeah, so here you go.
Now, we're inside a computer program. Is it really so hard to believe? This isn't real.
Real is simply electrical signals interpreted by your brain.
Somebody will appear on that rooftop and fire an RPG at your vehicle. Virtual reality exposure therapy is a method whereby you take somebody with an anxiety disorder and you gradually expose them to what they're afraid of With post-traumatic stress disorder, we're taking people that have been traumatized and we're trying to help them to confront and process these difficult emotional experiences in a graduated way, at a pace they can handle. And if they stay with it long enough, because nothing really bad happens, eventually the anxiety starts to extinguish.
Fetal VR, you can see and understand complex fetal conditions by traveling inside the mother's body to engage with fetal patients up close.
Our VR simulation features two important congenital fetal conditions that we take care of at Stanford.
The first is twin-to-twin transfusion syndrome, a condition that affects identical twins while they're in the mother's uterus.
In TTTS, there's an imbalance in the way blood circulates to the fetuses within the mother's placenta. Our virtual reality experience lets you see how one twin will receive more blood than the other, which can cause problems with the fetal hearts and cause one twin's amniotic sac to swell, leaving the other twin with too little fluid to thrive.
Patients, families, and trainees can get an unprecedented view of the advanced surgical repair techniques we use, in which our surgeons insert a tiny laser into the uterus to ablate the blood vessels where the imbalance originates.
Right now.
Right. So in this video, there were various terms or jargons were used. Of course, they used the word virtual reality, augmented reality. Then they used medical terms like PTSD, that stands for post-traumatic syndrome disorder. They talked about depression, mental health, rehabilitation, autism. Then we sort of went into the surgery training and also education, educating patients and surgeons, training on a VR simulator before they do the actual surgery. Then we talked about how multiple surgeons or doctors can collaborate from different parts of the world on the surgery. We talked about all those things. These are the very emerging trends that are happening, that are in the process or already using the immersive technologies, right? So before I dwell deep into those things, I just want to set the context of what the basic technologies are. I understand there's been, already I think Monday and Tuesday there were a lot of discussions on AR, VR. So many would have been already familiarized with the technologies. For people who are joining for the first time, I just want to give the benefit of doubt to them and start giving some basic definition. So XR, right? XR is a catch-all terminology. XR stands for extended reality. That's a catch-all terminology that includes AR, VR, and MR, right? AR stands for augmented reality, VR for virtual reality, and MR for merged reality. Let me define quickly what this means. Augmented reality is a technology that combines the real world with a digital overlay. So if you have a real world in front of you, and if you want additional information from the real world, all you have to do is put up an AR glass or take a smartphone, point at it, then you will get digital data as an overlay on the real world. It could be 3D data or whatnot. So that's augmented reality. You always get to see the real world, and the real world is overlaid with a digital overlay, and Google Glass is a great example, and also the Geo Glass that our own Reliance has come with a glass called Geo Glass. They're all examples of augmented reality, and you pointing a phone or a tablet or an AR glass at on the floor of your living room or on the desk, then suddenly you see a human anatomy and explaining the various parts of the body, how the circulatory system works, how the nervous system works, as if some real 3D model is kept in front of you. That's augmented reality, right? Now, VR stands for virtual reality. In the key difference between VR and AR, in AR, you always get to see the real world around you. Your world is not shut off. You still see the augmented real world next to you, the way you see it in real life. Whereas in VR, you are completely shut off from the real world. Once you wear a VR headset, that means you need to wear a headset. You're cut off from the real world. All you see is 100% digital simulated world. That's all you get to see. And in that simulated world, you could be either flipping burgers, or you could be making pizza, or you could be in the Mars, walking around the surface, or it could be in a surgery room trying to practice how about practicing how to do a lung transplant or do a very complicated heart surgery, right? So that's a VR. Now, VR experience or VR utility or the training utility is enhanced by not just with the visual realism. You could have things that we call as haptics. Haptics are the gloves and other things you wear in a body that gives you the touch realism beyond the visual realism. So that is a few things that we will be talking about in the coming slides. So that's virtual reality, right? So in the VR, as I said, you get to move things around. You'll be able to place object, use knives, use machinery. You'll be able to do all the interaction on the virtual world. Now, what MR, which is merged reality, does is it is a sort of a combination of AR and VR. Not only the digital world, even the physical world could be manipulated. It could interact. So in the sense that MR, you would be able to scan the real world. Once you scan the real world, it's mapped. You get to interact with it. You get to manipulate the physical world along with the real world. And HoloLens by Microsoft is a fantastic example of a MR. Yes, good. So forth. That means we have now an idea. At least if you start using the word XR, you know that it's all inclusive. If you say AR, then you know that 70% of AR could be done using smartphones and tablets. The remaining things could be an AR glass. VR, you know that you need to wear a VR headset. So now that we are sort of set the stage, I'm going to go to the next slide. The next slide. So I won't spend too much time on this. So just to put things in perspective, right? It's a large market. In the coming years, the coming 5 years, the market is going to be as big. The XR market is going to be as big as the PC market, upwards of $100 billion. That's same as the PC market, right? So what that means for the skill talent pool is the way in the last 10 years, you saw a lot of the PC applications, PC content being migrated to smartphones. So nowadays, every company, yes? Is there any question? I just saw here something. Never mind. So the way every industry now have a mobile extension in terms of whether it is a commerce or a content or a training, same way in the next 5 years, there would be a tremendous opportunity for XR content in terms of content development, also in terms of software development, in terms of hardware development. The reason I'm saying this is because, since you are in the education space, in the university space, and there could be a lot of students in this particular call. I think you guys have to look into it as a very serious industry where there is tremendous job potential, tremendous growth potential. And AR, VR is just not a silo industry. IoT. IoT stands for Internet of Things. It's also being integrated with AI, right? And many of the software tools, or 50% of the software tools that is being used in the gaming industry, are repurposed or being used as such in the XR market. So everybody who's interested in gaming, they already have a good start in terms of being ready for the AR industry. Yeah, and I said various applications for it, right? Apart from the engineering education, gaming is a big area, and today we're going to talk about healthcare. Now, quickly, what's a big deal, right? Somebody who's just joined the XR world or who have skipped the last 2 days things, they're thinking, or many people's question in their head is, what's a big deal about this AR, VR, right? We already have a PC, we already have a smartphone, we have a tablet. Why do I have to wear something on my head? What does it give me, right? If you have to make somebody do something, and especially if you have to make somebody to wear something on their head and walk around, then it has to deliver something substantial. It has to deliver something that is amazing, right? Otherwise, you cannot convince people to wear something on their head, right? And that's exactly what AR VR delivers. See, all along in the last many centuries, people have observed content on a fixed basis, right? From the old days of people writing on leaves to paper to board to PC to tablets. It's all fixed display. That means the content is on a fixed display, and if you have to interact with the content, whether it is a movie or you're learning about education, or it is in education, or it is or a sports or whatnot, it's a flat screen medium, right? If in case you want to see it bigger, or if you want to see it in every angle, then you have to use your finger to sort of swipe. If it's a smartphone, or if it is a mouse, you have to use, or if it is a PC, you have to use your mouse to turn it around, navigate, and things like that, right? So that's what a flat screen medium has been giving us since the 1800s. What AR VR gives you is a completely different paradigm of how you deal with the content. You just no longer have to just observe the content. You now have the capability to immersively interact with the content as if the content that you are observing is around you. If you are trying to, if the defense personnel is trying to learn about how to deal with a particular warfare scenario, he just doesn't have to look at the screen. Once he wear a headset, he feels as if he is in that environment. He is somewhere in the Indo-Pakistan border, right? And that's exactly what we have built and delivered to defense. If he's in the Indo-Pakistan border, and if in case the enemy aircraft comes in, what does he have to do? How does he communicate this with his counterparts sitting in different places? How does he collaborate with a different team to bring that aircraft down immediately, right? What kind of maneuvering, what kind of collaboration that he have to do? That's exactly what VR gives you. That immersive feel, as if you are in the real world, 360 degree. That's what gives you, right? And in other areas, there's a lot of empathy that you can create, and the training that people go through VR is very close to the real world, right? That means you save a lot of cost, you reduce injuries. It's a very safe way of doing things. You save people's lives. You don't all the risky training that typically happens in a real world now can be done in the VR. Right? So that's why VR is the next world. In fact, every major company that you could think of in the world, right? Intel, Facebook, Microsoft, Google, Qualcomm, Geo, everybody's investing billions of dollars in the XR, and people are using AR, VR. I've been using AR, VR the last so many years without even realizing they are using VR. For example, cricket. In the cricket, when you watch TV, then you suddenly see when people are playing the game, you see some markings to show how people have to do any digital overlay on the players, right? That is nothing but a sort of a AR technology where the real feed of live telecast is enhanced, is giving enhanced experience by having a digital overlay as analytical data or in terms of showing additional data. Yeah, so that's what XR gives you, the immersive experience. Now, my journey in the healthcare started way back. So so 3-4 years after my MS degree in the US, I started working for AMD for 4 years. I was building microprocessors for various industries. Then in the around 99, 98, I joined Intel as one of the leads for a microprocessor division. I was fortunate enough to build some VR systems for the healthcare industry. This particular systems, I didn't build the VR system. I built more on the computing systems that is combined with the head mount device. So see, if you look at a VR system, it has two components. That is a headset HMD component, there's a computing component. We built the computing component. So what we did at that time is, how do you typically, one of the very painful thing is your burn injury. So burn, people who have gone through second degree, third degree of burns, when they do the dressing and the undressing part, it's very, very, very painful. So typically what they do is they give steroids, a lot of steroids, opiates to numb them, and they do the dressing, and they put them in a ice water and stuff like this. And those steroids have a lot of side effects. What that time this company did is they built a game, a VR game, and in that game the person was sliding down the slopey, icy slope, playing with dolphins and things like that. So instead of giving opiates, instead of giving steroids during the dressing of a burn injury patient, he was actually watching a VR. If you look at the picture on the left side, that's what he was doing. And without giving steroids, we could do the dressing. He didn't feel the pain. Because when you give opiates, all that it does is it rewires your brain to forget pain. The same thing was done by this simulation, right? This VR simulation, and he was engaged, he was immersed, he had a mental focus, he was engaging his body and senses, he was doing activity. And what that does is, there is a concept called neuroplasticity. Due to the neuroplasticity, due to the way it rewires the brain, VR can positively impact the human behavior, and that's exactly what we did in 2000. So that's where my journey started, that what could be the positive impacts. Every technology has a negative impact and positive impact, right? So I'm looking at the positive impact. That's when I was introduced to VR, right? And it's been almost 21 years, and the technology and the size and the power and the computing have gone 10x from where it was, right? So if you look at the system, right, what you see on the left side, you can't wear it beyond 10 minutes, right? Now you have much lightweight systems, it's a lot cheaper, it's very realistic, huge advancement. Hence, and that's the reason, right? The why suddenly VR. So even though the VR has been there for quite some time, the reason why VR has caught up a lot of attention from people, because there's been a tremendous advancement in terms of GPU, AI, XR VR technology, where things that was meant only for large deployment, heavy deployment, expensive deployment, and cumbersome deployment now has been solved for consumer use. Things that was costing $100,000 to deploy. That was the cost when we did this 2000. Now the same thing could be done for $200, $300, right? So, and it is probably 10 times much better experience, lightweight. Yeah. So that's my journey. Now in the video, right? The video that you saw in the beginning, there was a lot of talk about post-traumatic stress syndrome disorder, which is post-war. A lot of people go through a lot of trauma, and this post-traumatic trauma is just not only in terms of warfare, right? Even due to various experience, there's a lot of trauma people go through, and we are helped in those things. So that's the PTSD, that's alcoholism, autism, kids, pain, addiction, and stroke. Yes. Somebody has to go on mute. Thank you. So if you look at it, XR addresses all those areas, and these are all big ticket items. If you look at it, the number, right? You're looking at $200 billion, $500 billion, $1 trillion, and especially in the current pandemic world, there is a huge burden on healthcare around the world on mental health, right? And mental health comes under the trauma, right? So these are the areas where XR can give a very, very impactful, cost-effective, impactful, and scalable solutions, right? In all those areas, and these all being worked on, right? Now the question is, why is this the new field? XR or AR, VR being in healthcare, it is something new? Absolutely not. As I showed you in my own personal experience, where we had used VR, virtual reality, for pain management 20 years back. VR, the use of AR and VR in healthcare is been going on at various scientific labs over the last 50 years in the academic research. The only difference is those systems were very cumbersome, expensive, not so optimal for consumer use. But using those primitive or whatever is the latest at that time, now it is primitive, they already established the importance and the effectiveness of VR that can improve the behavior, attitude, and solve many of the current big healthcare problem that we talked about, which is the depression, mental health, surgery training, collaboration, rehabilitation, etc., etc. So just to give a quick snapshot of what I told you. So the concept of, or the research, or the effectiveness of VR for healthcare is nothing new. We don't have to. It's all been established. There are thousands of proven research data already established over the years. It has not come to the consumer side, or it's not come at a large scale, because the hardware that was used, the software that we used, were very, very bulky. And now that's been solved. Suddenly there is a huge uptick. There's a huge explosion in the usage of XR in health. It's just the beginning. In the next 3-4 years, it's going to solve. If you look at it, the US Army has been investing billions of dollars in using VR for all the trauma, post-traumatic syndrome disorder, various trauma patients is being used effectively. A lot of work is happening, a lot of uses in terms of research training, surgery training, right? So it's nothing new. As I said, we as a company have delivered lots of simulators for the defense ourselves in the last 2 years. So it's definitely a very, very interesting area, and it's going to continue to show a lot of potential. It's going to solve a lot of healthcare issues in the coming years. Okay, and this I already gone through, but let me quickly summarize, right? So the devices, smartphone devices that are being used in the industry right now are the Oculus Quest. Oculus Go is 1 year old. Definitely Oculus Quest is coming. It's currently being used heavily. Oculus Rift, if you need a PC based, that is a wireless wired devices. HoloLens is a big area. As I said earlier, the whole VR utility, the function is enhanced 10 times if you are able to integrate with an aptics. Aptics could be if you're doing physical activity, more hand based, like a surgery and whatnot. Then haptic gloves or a physical device, it's a great way to increase the functionality of it, right? And you can also use other IoT hardware and physical simulators along with VR, along with the headsets, to make the training, make the simulation as close to the real world. And that's the sign of nirvana. That means you don't anymore need to train yourself on the real world. You don't need to have done hundreds of surgery to call yourself an expert in the surgery. Just by having a real-time surgery tools, real-time training tools, you could train yourself, or you could have a real-time assist to make sure even a surgeon who's only with 1 year experience can be equivalent to a surgeon with the 20 years experience, right? So the sense of IoT mapping the real world virtual is going to bring in a lot of positive impact to the healthcare industry. I just want to quickly show you one more video. It's very similar, but nevertheless, I'm just going to show you because I have it. Yeah. So let me give you explaining one scenario that we have worked on in surgery using VR, right? So in a typical case, what happens is a surgeon, let's say he's doing a lung transplant on a patient, which is a very critical surgery and requires very, very high skill. So what happens is if the surgeon is doing a lung transplant, he would do a CT scan. He would work with the radiologist 1 day before, and he would go with the radiologist, and they will look at the patients, and they will take quite a number of CT scans. And the CT scan would show a two-dimensional details of the patient's, let's say, lungs. So during surgery, what the surgeon will do is he's going to put the CT scan in front of him, and based on his experience, he's going to go about doing his surgery, and he will be referring the CT scan every time he has some question, and he'll go about doing a surgery. And typically, a small surgery will take 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours. During the surgery, let's say the surgeon doing the surgery hit upon something that he didn't expect. Let's say there was some sort of a small tumor or some bump that he saw during the surgery on the patient. Now he can't take any chances. Now he has to figure out how to go about surgery, and the CT scan will not give me any information because CT scan that was taken on the patient by the radiologist doesn't have the details. Now what he typically does, he stops the surgery. He would call the radiologist. The guy will come with the doctor will come with the CT scan. During they stop the surgery, then they will take the CT scan at different angles after discussion. Then the CT scan is taken and they will go about doing the surgery. And there's a lot of issues during that. Now this 2-3 hour surgery becomes 7 hours, 8 hours surgery, and there is a possibility of contamination, because the patient is cut and is open, right? Now, what it could be done, or is being done, and we also worked on it, is how VR is going to be useful. Now, what happened? The same CT scan, when the radiologist takes the CT scan, you could import all the complete volumetric data, the CT scan data, not of only one angle, 2 angle, 3 angle, the complete volumetric details of the patient's anatomy, let's say the lungs in this case. It can be imported into a, say, HoloLens, right? Into a HoloLens or MR glass. Now during the surgery, right, if the patient, and if you have already built a simulator with lungs, a transplant or lung surgery, so since the volumetric data of the lungs is fed into the MR glass, the surgeon during surgery that you saw in this video, what he does is, if he wants to view the lung in 3D as if in front of him, he could just say through a verbal command, show me lungs. Suddenly in front of him, through his AR glass, you will see the entire lungs of the patient, not any of the real patient, of the patient. Now he could hide, unhide, simulate before he actually cuts that particular, vein or artery or whatever he's trying to cut. I'm not a surgeon. I'm not even using the right term, but whatever he's supposed to do, instead of doing it on the real patient, he could try it on the simulated data in 3D in front of him, right? And that'll be as if he's in front of him through VR glass. So they could simulate that, and just not that. Now he's seeing it, he still has some questions. Immediately he could call his expert who might be sitting probably in New York or somewhere else, and both could look at the same 3D data of the lung patient. They could simulate it and see what will happen in different scenarios. Once he's convinced that whatever he's trying to do, the surgery, will not cause any harm. Once he's convinced, then he could remove his AR glass and go about doing surgery. So all the trial and error, all the risk of doing a surgery when you hit upon some risky or a high unknown scenario, all those can be solved. Now you could go to the next extent. If you have sensors that can map the real patient's anatomy to the virtual, then what you could do is, as you are moving things in the physical anatomy, that same data through IoT sensors, can be captured on the virtual world, so that you can actually try something on a physical world or a virtual world, and same thing can be duplicated on the other world. So it's very, very powerful. It's not done yet. The part of collecting CT data of a patient and seeing it in VR and simulating, that part is done, but research is happening to see how you could map one-on-one of a physical anatomy to the real world, physical anatomy to the virtual world. So that's a research happening, and there's a lot of progress being made. Yeah. Now I still have 45 minutes left. Good. So I don't want to bore you with this. So as I said, VR comes in two varieties, wired device and wireless device. In the wireless device, Quest is the latest, and in the wired with PC. Wireless device has less computing, for obvious reasons. Wireless has less computing compared to a wired device. Wired device has a wire that connects to the PC. Your PC is connected to your headset. That means you could simulate a lot more heavy loads, a lot more realistic data. Yeah. I think we've already gone through this. I don't want to talk more about it. So if somebody talks about VR, you just have to remember VR means simulation. Simulation means training, right? If you have to train somebody, or not just alone or with multiple people together the same scenario environment, then VR is the answer, right? Offline training, VR works great. For any real-time assist, when you're doing your work and you need assistance to do your job better, like the surgery that we talked about, that's where AR comes into play, right? So AR is real-time assist, VR is offline training. So that's how you have to sort of think through. Yeah. Compared to, because you might ask, people have been training for years and they do a pretty decent job in whatever they do, whether you are designing rocket engines, or you're doing surgery, or you're doing pizza, or you're cooking, or you are in a factory doing or assembling cars. People have been training. So what is that new about VR, right? So if you look at it, right, typically is the cost, is the efficiency, that what differentiates one technology or one version of technology to the other one. Even for example, right, before Apple came with iPod, people were using different kinds of technology to listen to music, right? We had the whole, what do you call it? The big round thing. I forgot the name also. Right. Then we had the tapes. Then we had the disc. Then we had the big MP3 players. And Apple came with the new iPods. What did it do? It gave you huge efficiency in terms of packing thousands of music in a small space, much better quality, right? Much more quality in terms of audio, a lot more cheap, a lot more scalable. That's exactly what the VR does for training. It eliminates a lot of risk. It gives you much better quality. It gives you scalable technology. It gives you much better optimization compared to a traditional training. It could be a video-based training or whatnot. And since the training is very close to the real world training, right? Real world actual training people might do. So typically what happens, people train on video, they train on some, in healthcare, they work on mannequins, some dummies, and they work on some dead bodies. Once they are done, they go to the real world. Then they learn, they do mistakes, they learn in 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, they learn. What VR does is that real world training, where they're working on the real world, that can be done much earlier by a realistic VR simulations. And you could inject various corner cases, complex cases, and see how people react to it, how in terms of training, how they deal with this curveball that's thrown at them, right? So these are the areas. That's why VR is super cool, super impactful when it comes to simulation training. Yeah, we talked about this, right? Huge evolution of VR over the years. So quickly summarizing, right? Quickly summarizing where VR is being used in healthcare. Pain management, we talked about pain management. Instead of using steroids, we could do it. Medical training, we talked about. I gave you example of lung transplant. Rehabilitation therapy is the area that we as a company have been doing a lot of research, and we are going to come with some products in the stroke rehabilitation and MSK. MSK stands for musculoskeletal, which is ortho. Great, so we do that. We also have done a lot of research in the ophthalmology, especially the low vision area. So we did a lot of work with the Shankara Netralia. In fact, we have published many papers working with research institutions like Shankara Netralia, how VR can be used in the assessment, better assessment of low vision patients, better rehabilitations, better cure of really low vision can't be cured. You just have to improve your functional independence. So those are the areas we as a company, TNQ, have spent good amount of time the last over years doing research and publishing papers. So so whatever I mentioned here are something that we have worked and we are working right now. Oh, what is this?
Press the start button. Press the start button to begin.
Yeah, one more video. I think video is always helpful to put in perspective. Yeah.
Press the start button to begin.
As you can see, this is a significant fracture. Using the scalpel.
Look at the side of the patient's neck to verify.
Excellent. You can now see the bump and fracture clearly. Place the forceps back on the press.
In this particular scenario, okay, just a quick disclaimer. This particular work is not done by us. It is some other company. I'm showing to you just to make sure you guys understand what's what. In this particular video, right, you see it is just not one person working together on the surgery. Multiple people, all those holographic head you see floating around, these are people working from different locations. One could be in Kerala, one could be in Delhi, one could be in Spain. They're all are able to see the same surgery that this person who is wearing the t-shirt, right, that whatever t-shirt is wearing, is training on. He's training on a training, and the other people or observers or collaborators are able to see the same thing, and they can communicate with him saying that, yes, you're doing it correctly, you're doing incorrectly, do this, do this. So this multi-user, training, collaborative training can be done as a VR simulation, and it can be used during surgery, during learning, or also for other industry.
Place the screwdriver on the That was a very successful operation. Nicely done.
So, so it's very powerful. I'm not sure how many people are getting it, but able to train on a very, very top 100 complex surgeries in the world, right? You need to spend a lifetime to get that kind of experience in the real world, right? Let's say the reason why India is so good in healthcare, because compared to a typical doctor in the US, Indian doctors deal and experience hundreds and thousands of different cases, a variety of cases compared to a doctor in the US. In US, the surgery is driven by various insurance protocol and things. The risk taking is also very less in the US. So what makes a surgeon better is just the experience dealing with different scenarios. Just think about, right? All those, the top 100 and thousands of scenarios, complex scenarios, if you build a simulator. And if in case a medical student is able to go through those training in a very realistic way, and you have built an amazing VR simulator with haptics and that gives you the touch realism and able to feel as if it's a real surgery is doing it and able to collaborate with people. That's the ultimate of training. So that means a lot less errors during surgery, and you don't, you sort of democratize the whole surgery profession. That even a simple, a 1-year experience doctor can, with the technology, can be as good as a more experienced surgeon, right? So that's the power of tools, and and we are not there yet. There's still a lot of pitfalls and issues, but that's where the use of AR VR technology in healthcare is heading. Now we talked about VR. Now I'm going to talk about AR. So as I said, AR is you're not cut off from the real world. You wear an AR glass, you get to see what's happening around you. And I just have some use cases in AR. So I'm just going to show you a video. Then we'll talk about for another 15 minutes on AR, and we'll talk about the different piece of technology that makes AR VR happen, and also what are the pitfalls. So I'm going to spend the last 20 minutes on that. So before that, let me just play one more video. Sorry about that, I pressed the button. All right, so this video pretty much summarizes what we talked about in the last 20 minutes, and it gives you a visual of what we talked about. If people would like to see a lot more visually compared to what I spoke. So if you look at it, right, AR is used for virtual collaboration, education, training, to visualize human body, and guiding real time anybody needs help in the healthcare space. AR comes very, very handy. Let me give you in the low vision that what we talked about, right? Low vision is that we have been working with Shankar Nethralaya. So low vision as no cure. What that means is people even though they are not blind, they are in between. That means they can't see things clearly. People have various issues, like they may see blackness in the middle of their view, or they may see on the periphery, they may see issues. So they may look normal, but they have blurriness, or if they have to look at a page, they can't look in one shot. They have to literally scan through up and down. So they go through a lot of trauma. They lose functional independence and things like that. How AR glass can be used to assess them, VR can be used to assess them. Once you assess them correctly, how you rehabilitate them to make sure they can, as I said, there's no cure. If they are going out in the market, how they deal with the scenarios, if they're going, because they can't see 3D. If there's an edge, they can't see edge. They see edge in a different way, right? So if you put them in the real world, they may bump into, they may not see things. For example, if they are getting into a bus, if the conductor is giving a ticket, they can't see that he is giving ticket. They may see only some part of it. They have to literally go down and see somebody is giving. So how to deal with different scenarios? So if we create a simulator that mimics the real world scenario and taking the patient through rehabilitation, the brain gets rewired differently so that they can deal with it. So that's the offline rehabilitation that we have worked on. At the same time, that could be a real world assist, where they could wear a normal looking glass, and the camera is fit on the glass, and as the camera sees what it sees when people are walking around, the vision of the camera, the view of the camera gets translated and is fed as an audio cue. For example, if a blind people, or if visually impaired people, like a low vision people, is going into a restaurant and they are looking at the menu, they may not see completely what it is due to blurriness and various things. Now there could be an AI and AR combined tool, where once they wear a glass, the camera can see the whole menu card, and it can convert into a natural looking audio that can be fed into the patient and tell him in a very realistic way what is the menu. So it is as if he's having a assistant with him all the time. So that's the real world scenario, and that tool can be used for any kind of patient who requires an assist. It's more like a vision robo, not having a physical thing. It's just small headset you're wearing it, right? You may think it's weird. When many years back, I remember people wearing Bluetooth. They wear a Bluetooth and they walk around, right? We thought it's very weird, to see it was very weird, because guys is talking to himself, because nobody knows he wears a headset, and in the middle of the road or in the house, he's talking to himself. We think he's gone mad, but that's not it. The reason why he's doing is he's wearing Bluetooth and he's able to talk freely, right? Same way, right? These things will come where it's just not only the audio. Now you'll get the video. You wear a glass, you go around, and it will convert data and give it to you, either as an overlay if you have a normal eyes, and if you are visually impaired, it can give you audio cues. So that's the power of AR in real time. Yes. Now the technology. Let's talk about some technology piece. Now I talked about enough use cases of AR, VR, right? And we went a little deep in some areas also. Let's talk about how the technology has evolved. This is a AR and VR. See, the reason why suddenly, the last 5-6 years, the technology is evolving. And typically, if you look at it, the smartphone, I remember 93, was it 93? After I graduated from engineering in 93, 94, 93, for a year, I was in sales. I was in a company called Iridium. It was Iridium, and we were selling satellite phones. It was later bought by Motorola, but I was selling satellite phones. I sold 1 or 2 phones in the whole year Can you imagine? So I was a sales executive for a company called Iridium, and I sold a smartphone, a satellite phone. I sold two phones, one in Bombay, other in Chennai, to top CEO of a large company. How did I deliver the smartphone? It was in a suitcase. So you take a suitcase. In the suitcase, there's a big smartphone people carry along with them. That's a satellite phone so that the person can talk to anywhere in the world. Now, 93, that was the case. Now look at 2010, I think with 2014, 15, I think 2016, smartphone came through a long ways, but it took how many years? Almost 20 years to come from 93 to 2015 to be where it is. But you don't require that kind of time frame for AR VR. The reason behind that is all the technology, all the learning that we have gone through in smartphone. If you look at smartphone, how did you get into smartphone? It was evolution from landline phone to a PDA, which is Palm, to camera, handheld gaming, laptop. Through the years, 20 years, we came to smartphone. Same way, right? TV, desktop, things. So all those learnings, the same companies who are doing it are the same guys who are building the AR VR headsets. Hence, the evolution time frame is going to be a lot more faster in AR VR. At some point, you will get contact lenses. There's a lot of research, a lot of demos, a lot of prototype is already built, where you don't need to wear even glasses. You just the way you don't need to wear glasses. You can wear contact lens. Same way you could have glasses, contact lens, and that will give you an experience of AR. Apple glasses, other glasses going to be launched very soon. We'll have the AR layer built on normal glasses. For example, in a normal mode, you see the world the way you see normal glass. You do things, you go to office, you go things, you drive, no issues. Suddenly, if in case you want to go to the AR mode on your phone, you click the AR mode, and if in case you are discussing an engine with your customer who sits in Delhi, now both of you can see the same engine in front of you, having the same glass. So that's what, and who knows, as I said earlier, you could have a contact lens so that it looks very, very seamless. What are the an AI, right? AI is part of every AR VR technology that's being built. If you look at HoloLens, it uses AI heavily. So you have to first recognize what you're seeing. So there's a 3D depth capture, there's a interpolation, there's a reconstruction, there's object recognition, there's a tracking, registration, there's a whole bunch of post estimation and things like that, right? So AR does continuous 3D depth capturing and reconstruction, right? And it has to build that data, and then it has to track it. So there's a heavy amount of GPU work, heavy amount of AI computer vision work happening for you to do it, right? So that's what it gives you. It gives you that visual intelligence, and it's a great assist tool for the whole healthcare industry, whether you are a patient or if you are a medical professional. Huge, huge, huge. Now, as I mentioned earlier, right, what are the things we do, right, at TNQ InGage? We have done a lot of training simulators in healthcare. We have done a lot of work in the ophthalmology, especially the low vision, building simulators for assessment of people, visually impaired people, rehabilitation of visually impaired people. We have done a lot of work with Shankar Netrali in this area. Right now, we are doing a lot of work, and we are going to launch trials have already happened with various hospitals in stroke rehabilitation. It's just not only VR, it's a combination of VR, it's a combination of IoT sensors, haptics, things like that. Right? It's a very interesting area, and we have put in a lot of time and money and effort and R&D in this area. So hopefully I'll come back soon at some point, early next year, with the product launch and other things. Yeah. Okay, I think I'll skip all these things. I think I've summarized it. Now, what are the current challenges? What is keeping the XR community or the researchers up in the night, right? Yeah, great things have happened, but still we are not there yet. For us to see a very scalable consumer device, right now, XR is being used more in the enterprise side, enterprise as in companies, hospitals, etc., are using it because the device is still expensive. Still, there's a lot of optimization required for us to make it as a seamless device like a smartphone for consumers. What are the areas people are working on? That's in the display side of things. How light can you design the device? How energy efficient you could do it? What could be the resolution so that it looks as if when you put on the VR headset is as light as is. And at some point, you're not going to have a VR, AR, all will be integrated into one device called XR glass, right? So that's what this. And to go into a little more technical, for you to see the virtual object as a real object, right? It means when you see a VR, sometimes see the difference between a bad CG movie and a good CG movie is in a good CG movie, you will get so immersed in the screenplay in the movie that you will think it's a real world, right? Because everything looks so realistic. Whereas a bad CG movie, the animation, the lighting and other things will look very non-realistic, and it look like people call it as a cartoon, right? So all those issues still exist in XR. It's how the virtual objects look very, very realistic, so that it looks indistinguishable from the real world, right? That illumination is a very important point, and definitely you want much more seamless, intuitive use of VR. For that, the motion tracking is very important, right? Whether it's on the head or hand or eye interaction, people should not think twice in wearing a VR headset. It should be light, it should be so realistic, it should give you all the interaction so that it looks as if you're doing like what you see in movies. In Iron Man, you see Iron Man is doing all those virtual things, right? And definitely the connectivity, because real-time rendering of data, healthcare data is very compute intensive, and it consumes lots and lots of content, and having a high-speed connectivity is very, very crucial. And that's one of the reasons why we are having 5G and moving forward other things in this area. Just to give a quick summary, this is where we are, right? I'll just give you a quick example of what I talked about, right? If you look at it, if you don't do a good job in VR, the virtual, you see on the right side, the virtual objects, even though it gives you the idea, still it doesn't look real. The sofa doesn't look real. You think, it doesn't look very real. The texture is not that great. Still gives you that feel. Once your brain tells you it's fake, it doesn't look real, then the impactfulness is gone, right? So that's where we are right now. But there's a lot of things that happened ever since I showed this picture. Is a lot better now, but a badly designed content could have something like this, right? Lighting, shading, things. And where we need to be and where we are halfway through there is how the same scene should look like once the VR headset. This thing looks as if it's not a digitally built world. It's a virtual. It's a real world. If you look at it, this scene on the right side looks like a real picture taken from a real world, but it's not. It's a virtual world. So even though this realism can be achieved in an offline server or an offline a PC. That's the case with any CG movie. To have the same thing in XR, that means there has to be a real-time rendering, real-time illumination, real-time shading of the same scenario using much optimized computing engine, right? That's where the AI comes into play, right? If you achieve this realism and with the haptics motion tracking interaction will bring the height of AR, VR in the healthcare or other industry. That means it'd be very close to the real world. And that's where the scientists and everybody is working to make things a lot more lighter, impactful. Yeah. So that's me. I still have 20 minutes left, but I am done with my content. And I'm going to open up for questions. I still have 20 minutes left, so feel free to ask any questions. Hello?
Yeah, can you hear me?
So I'm done with the meeting. So the rest depends on if there's any questions, Q&A. Please, somebody can.
Participants, if you're having any doubts or any clarification, you can ask the questions.
Yes, yes. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, please.
Yeah. Thanks for the great session, Anthony. This is Vijay from Chennai. So my question is, I've been working on this AR and VR for quite some time. How do you see the trend going? So this nowadays it's going from app-based to web-based thing. So how do you see the trend going in the next few years in VR and AR?
So as I said, the enterprise has completely adopted the technology. Every industry that I know is using VR for training, and they're using AR for real-time stuff. So there's been a tremendous progress in terms of enterprise. Consumer is coming behind. If you only look at smartphone, right, it is the enterprise that has adopted technologies first. Once they see the use model, then the consumer comes into play. For example, in smartphone, the Blackberries, I'm not sure if you have heard of Blackberry. Blackberries were primarily used for enterprise phone, office phone. Then once the technology has evolved, then the consumer devices came into play. Same way, the consumer side of things is still behind. I think Apple is going to launch the Apple Glass soon, and they just want to make sure it is not Me Too device. It is a perfect device, so they are working on it. And once that comes, it's going to change a lot of things in the AR. So it's very, very exciting, and that too in the current pandemic world, not everything is possible to meet face-to-face real. The immersive technology, which is part of the digital technology, is a lot more relevant now compared to 3-4 years. And this 2-3 years of pandemic has taught people how to use AR, VR, not more of nice thing to have, but as a necessity to have. So I think it's a very exciting time, and lot more new innovation will happen in the coming years.
Thanks again.
Sure.
Sir, can I ask one thing?
Please do.
Okay, sir. When we are wearing a VR glass with the augmented reality supporting application on the smartphone, we can project the AR application also, isn't it?
Yeah. See,
by the touching, by the sensation feel, for the sensation feeling, we want to wear any gloves on that, or otherwise we can able to feel the touch sensible by using some codes. We can make the control.
Yeah, see what happens in a VR Right? So the headset or the glass gives you the visual realism, right? You see the virtual object. Now the companies like Oculus or whatnot or AR glass, if it's HoloLens, they give you an gesture to move, interact with it. If it is a VR, they give a hand control, but it is not intuitive. At the same time, you don't get the feel, the touch. That means when you are inside the virtual world, when you are operating a machine, you don't, use the hand the same way it is, and you don't feel the weight. See the height of aptics. There's a company called Aptex. They're working on it with fluid based haptic mechanism. Is when you're holding a knife in the XR world, you should feel the actual weight of the knife. And when you take a knife and cut a cheese or a bread or a brick, there's a different feeling, right? Cheese is cut very smoothly, softly. Bread takes a little more effort. The feel is different. And if you're trying to cut a brick with a knife, it's a lot more harder and rough. The same sensation has to come through haptics, right? We are not there yet. We are there now, but the device is a lot more bigger and not ready for consumer, right? So, but that's where it needs to go. So that sensation right now, haptics gives you some sensation, but the physics of having the exact same feel, it's being worked on to make that haptic gloves a lot more smaller, more consumer friendly.
In the case of AR also, we have feel the sensation or by using some haptic devices.
Yeah, we could see at some point in the future there will not be AR and VR. There'll be only one device called XR.
Okay.
Right? It'll be one glass called XR. So if you want to be in AR mode, you say AR mode, it could work. If in case you don't want AR mode, you want completely synthetic digital world, you could do it. In fact, even now the Oculus Quest devices have a AR mode, where if the normal default is VR, that means 100% digital world. But there is also a AR mode where you get to see the real world. So that's where the world is heading. So there won't be a AR device, there won't be a VR device. There'll be one device called XR device. And that device will, as you asked, will interact with haptics. And the haptics is just not gloves. It could be even a shoe. It could be bodysuit. It could be a bodysuit also.
Okay, sir. I would like to develop an AR tool, but I didn't get any support from this in this surroundings. When do you know some AR developers in Kerala?
Kerala. No, there are. Why don't you get in touch with me? I know people who develop AR, VR in Kerala. But nowadays, you don't have to be, moving around. In fact, my engineers in the last, I have a team of 50 AR, VR engineers, and 40 people. Yeah, 40 people have not even come to my office the last 1.5 years. They are working from home, out of which 5 people are from Kerala.
Okay, sir. Will you please give me your mail ID for further contact for
communication? Please. So you're calling from the university, or where are you calling from?
Yeah, I am calling from a university. I am studying in a university, Kochi University of Science and Technology. Sure. I would like to know more about the AR and AR tool maker.
So please,
I would like to develop an AR tool.
Yeah, I'm sharing there. No, see my email address.
Okay, sir. I will contact you. Please help me in the further movement. Okay.
All righty.
Okay.
Glad to help.
Thank you, sir.
Sure. Any other questions, please?
Okay, can you hear me? Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Thank you. The question is, how would the hologram thing would shape up, because it's going from AR to VR to XR. And there's a lot of things coming up in hologram also, bringing up a personality who is not there and just looks like real. So how do you, those things can be added to our education or in other sectors?
Of course, of course. So let me give you some insight into that. See, the MR devices like the HoloLens is nothing but holographic reconstruction of a virtual data, right? If in case you want to see a movie, yesteryear's movie actor coming live, or you want to see a rocket lifting off, right? So right now the MR devices like holograms build that holographic content and make sure it give it a realistic feeling. So these are all personalized, right? So all the MR glasses build a personalized VR, so a personalized holographic content. Now what you're talking about is a holographic content on stage for large number of people to see at the same time. Am I right, Vijayarajan?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So that is not XR, that is a holographic content, right? Now, what do you need for holographic content? For example, our beloved Modi ji, not in this, during election. In the last year election or 2 years before election, the French current president used holographic technology to make sure he is present in 10 places at the same time giving speeches. Now, what does it have? See, if you're having a small product display like a watch or a shoe, you don't need very expensive. For there are devices called holodeck and things like that. You could do it. Now, for you to build a holographic content, then what you need is, so we have worked on this multiple times and sometimes it's not great. I was involved in when I was with Intel, we built holographic content for a Michael Jackson in Europe. So all that it requires is you require laser high resolution projectors, not 1 to maybe 10, 20, depending on the content, whether the holographic person is going to be on one point and talking, or he's going to walk around the stage up and down. Depending on that, you need X number of projectors. Now, once projector is done, the stage has to be designed to have a mirror, and you need to build a holographic screens in stages, and that's what's done. It's pretty expensive, right? It is great for entertainment, right? It's great for entertainment, great for those things. And you wouldn't believe, Vijayarajan, before every election, some minister or somebody will call us and wants, for example, Tamil Nadu, right? Yeah. This election, before election, somebody calls me and they want, either Karunanidhi or Jayalalitha to come live on stage and give a speech. Right? But, they all say it 1 day before, 3 days before, 1 week before. Is the technology exist? Yeah, we could do it, but it takes time, it takes money, it takes effort. So in terms of technology, it is there, but it is not for a consumer, right? I don't see it as a consumer that's going to come in. Large companies, large entertainment areas like whether entertainment or in politics, it makes sense. And for a consumer, what we are trying to do is through the personalized headsets, right? That's where it's going in the consumer side. On a consumer side, you will not see, without headset people, you're able to see people in your room, in your living room, right? Because it requires a bunch of hardware feature, which is not feasible. Yeah. Does that answer your question, Vijayarajan?
Yes, sir. Great. Thank you. Thanks for the clarification. And finally, I would like to say I watched your YouTube TED talk on the power of augmented reality some years back.
Thank you.
I'm not sure someone has mentioned or not. I joined the meeting quite late. So that was a great one. Thank you.
You wouldn't believe that TED Talk was given some 9 years back.
Yeah, 2014, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for. I've become much more older now.
Yeah, but still it's fresh. Also, watched it. It still holds good for 2021 as well.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Anything else? I still didn't have lunch. So if there's no other questions, I would like to wind down, have a last minute conversation and probably grab lunch.
Any questions are there? Or we can wind up. Okay. So, Mr. Vijay, sir, you have given a wonderful session here, and it is very useful to all the participants. So, on behalf of the organizing team, I would like to thank and actually, dear participants, our expert, eminent expert, Mr. Vijay is so busy, and he asked me whether any postponement in this session will be carried out. He has some business meeting or something. But after that, he has adjusted those things and come here and delivered a very excellent lecture. It is rated one of the high degree lecture delivered in this FDP. Really, it's very nice, sir. What are the things we want to know as an this sensor part and all the components and everything up to the application level? It's looking like a case study. Very nice explanations. It's very much useful for our academic community. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. Thanks a lot, everybody. Be safe. Be safe. Let's all get vaccinated and be safe against the third wave. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.
Dear participants, that our last session is today scheduled at 6:45. 6:45 means sharply it will start at 6:45. One of the eminent scientists from BARC is coming to deliver about the tele-operated robotics. Okay, so it's completely the application side. And don't miss that session. I hope all of you are very eager to know about what is happening in the real world industry about this robotics. I have interacted much more about while the first day itself. Then in the introduction section, you are asking that how it will be applied and so on, so applications. So this teleoperated robotics is one of the theme of our FDP. How this VR and AR will be applied for that. And 2-3 lectures are coming about this teleoperated robotics, one of the emerging field in the robotics area. So if your friends are doing research in the robotics also, they are invited. But this platform is completely dedicated for the ATAL FDP participants. But for this session, I will allow if anyone from out of this ATAL participation list is that your students or your research scholars are willing to attend, means they can attend. Okay, so sharply the session will start at 6:45. We will wait from 6:30 onwards for you. Okay, so don't forget to join that session. Thank you all. Stay safe.